Hi everyone, I'm going to take you through the first couple of rounds of the expanding flower blanket. It does use some special stitches. I do have separate videos for those, but I'll work through it in these videos as well. I'm using acrylic yarn that's DK weight, but you can use any yarn that you like. You just need to adjust your hook size to be the correct hook size for the yarn. You can always work a couple of swatches to make sure that your piece is sitting nice and flat with your chosen yarn and hook size. So with the first round, I'm starting off with a magic loop, but you can start off with a 2 to 3 chain or even 4 chain, depending on your tension, and then slip stitching into the first chain to make a circle that way if you prefer. It's entirely up to you. So I'm going to first up into my magic circle, make 2 chains like so, and then a DC, and I'm using US terminology in my patterns. It just makes the most sense to me. I know obviously for people in the UK it might be a bit confusing, and Australians tend to use a bit of either, but that's just my personal preference. So now what I've made by doing 2 chains and then a DC is the equivalent of my 2 DC together cluster, where we're essentially making 2 stitches, but they're only with 1 resultant stitch for the next round. So I'll just make another one of those stitches so it becomes a little bit clearer. So I'm going to put my yarn over my hook, insert the hook from front to back, yarn over hook, pull the yarn through, yarn over hook, pull through 2 loops. Now at this point in time, I'm just going to leave those 2 loops on the hook, yarn over hook, and I'm actually going to insert the hook again rather than pulling the yarn through those loops. So yarn over hook, insert the hook from front to back, yarn over hook, pull the yarn through, yarn over hook, pull through 2 loops. Right, so now we've got 3 loops on there, yarn over hook, and I'm pulling through all those remaining loops. Now what I've made now is another one of those 2 DC together cluster stitches. So essentially what you can see now is I've made for the next round 1, 2 stitches. Even though I've got 4 stitches into this circle, what's going to be used for the next round is only 2 stitches. So it's a nice way of making a nice sort of plump fat circle, a good way to start the blanket. Just found that the blanket sits better if we do these stitches in the middle. It can be a little bit confusing, I know, but you get a much better outcome from doing this. So I'll just make another one of these stitches. So yarn over hook, insert the hook from front to back, yarn over hook, pull the yarn through, yarn over hook, pull through 2 loops. I've got 2 loops on the hook, yarn over hook, insert the hook again rather than pulling that yarn through, yarn over hook, pull the yarn through. Now I'm going to pull through 2 loops and then pull through all 3 loops. So you can see I've made another one of those stitches. So now if I just turn that over like this, you can see there's 1, 2, 3 stitches for the next round. So essentially what I want to do is go around and make in total 12 lots of these 2 DC together cluster stitches, so that I've got a nice puffy circle, but then I've got only 12 stitches to use for the next round. So what I'll do is I'll just continue to make those, and I will pause in a moment and just continue on myself. So if you want to pause and do the same, let's make one more. Alright, so now I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then to get to 12 I may need to make the remaining 7 stitches, so I'll just go ahead and do that. So now I've made 12 lots of those 2 DC together cluster stitches into the circle. So what we can do is we can just check together. I'm just going to count. So there's 1. This is the stitches that will be used for the next round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's perfect. So what I'm going to do now is just pull on the tail of my magic circle ring, so just to close that circle up. I'll stitch that tail in later. And what I now want to do is I'm actually skipping the first 2 chains, and I'm just going to slip stitch into this stitch here. So that's the first DC. So that concludes the first round. What we'll do is we'll just skip on to the second round to see if we can get that done in the same video. I think it should be, once you've mastered the 2 DC together clusters stitches, it should be quite easy to do this round because it's very similar. Now we haven't quite started making actual petals yet, but we're basically setting up our work to make those 12 petals. So now what I'm going to do for this round again is make one of those special stitches into the stitch that I've slip stitched into. So I've got 2 chains and yarn over, draw the yarn through, make a D. I'm making a DC now. So that stands for the 2 chain plus the DC stands for our first special stitch. Okay, so that's one. Now we're going to make a DC into the same stitch that we just made that special stitch in. So like so. So essentially for the next round now we've got 2 stitches made in the 1 stitch from the previous round. So we'll just go on and make another one. So I'm going to make that special cluster stitch. Like so. Like that. And then a DC in that same stitch. So special cluster stitch. Now moving into the 3rd stitch. And also a DC in that same stitch, the 3rd stitch. Just do one more. So I'm moving into the 4th stitch from the previous round now. So that special cluster stitch. Like so. And a DC also in that stitch. So now we've worked in 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. We should have double the amount of stitches for the next round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'll just do one more of those and then I'll pause so that I can complete the rest, and you can do so as well. So like so. Now I'm going to continue all the way around. So I've completed the stitches the whole way around, and now all that remains to be done is to slip stitch into the top of the first DC. So we're skipping the first 1, 2 chains and slip stitching into the top of that first DC there, like so. And that completes the second round.